Hello and welcome to Of Mooks and Monsters. I'm Rob Ward.
And I'm Tim Niederreiter, and this is episode 113 of the podcast.
And in favor of 113, we're going to show you how to make a creepy game. Now, what do we mean by creepy? Say that every game system has some sort of opportunity to be eerie or odd or strange, whether it's fighting a creepy villain in Mutants and Masterminds, you're going into Strahd's castle in Dungeons and Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, it's just another Tuesday.
That's what we call every session. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I call dinner. But yeah, it's it's such a big part of gaming, especially if you're playing with zombies or occult figures or anything like that.
Or even aliens.
Yeah. Aliens too, yeah. Aliens are weird. Aliens are creepy. Aliens are odd. So I think maybe, if anything, make this is the odd episode instead of just creepy, because there's so much that falls outside of just creepy that pertains to this.
I think creepy, though, is the mood we're generally going for when we talk about stuff in this episode. So, because aliens aren't always creepy, but they can be, is kind of where I was at with that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to kind of preference this by, I work in a haunted house most Octobers, and this, a phrase that was used to train us, because we have a lot of really good artists that come in and do stuff for us. They said horror is a lot like comedy in that it's about building tension and then breaking it with something unexpected. With that said, let's begin. Let's take an example of maybe a serial killer we have. Now we can do we can open up so what is behind the door, I think, should be our first question. There's a serial killer. We know it's a serial killer, or we don't know if it's a serial killer.
Maybe either way, it works. Yeah. But the surprise is either, I can see it if you don't mind me butting in here. Mm-hmm. I can see that working very well with either, you're hunting a serial killer. You're like an FBI agent or a detective or something, and you're hunting this serial killer, but you don't know much about them, or you just don't know where they are. And just not knowing where they are, but they're in the building is a great way to build tension, that kind of thing. Or you don't know that, or you don't even know that. The alternative is, like, you don't even know it's a serial killer, and then you find out, and then the surprise is finding out this murderer is not just a regular killer.
Yeah, and there's so many, and I think that idea of doors is so good to have, because it could be any door. And the fact is just putting something that's unsettling behind it. For instance, let's have a freezer.
Right.
We open the freezer and you see a human head.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. But we could probably even make that creepier.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How would you? Making the payoff effective that's basically what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Unless this, but you can build up. It's the way I've heard it described is writing like a thriller or a horror novel. Mm-hmm. So just to draw from some of my training is you're building tension and you're releasing tension. So, and not always, and sometimes when a surprise eases tension, but sometimes it's a jump scare, maybe. Mm-hmm. Which is not necessarily the best way to go, but whatever. That would be one way to ease tension. Or somebody cracks a joke, and then there's but then there's also we relieve tension because we met the monster, we saw the horrible thing, and now that's what's happened. But sometimes that can also build more tension if it's like, well, we found the head, where's the rest of him?
Yeah, or here's another idea: you find half a head that's been surgically cut, straight down the middle, and you're like, where the hell's the other part? What the hell's going on? And it is a lot like, jump scares they're good to have sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't rely entirely on them because that's what a lot of horror movies do that are poorly received because they're like, it's gonna pop out, it's gonna pop out, it's gonna pop out. And that was I Am Legend, pretty much, that film,
Yeah.
which it wasn't really that great because, all they had were people popping out and going boo.
Yeah. What a shame because the original story is so great.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you could also have that slow burn tension as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just the idea of you hear just something knocking, or you hear something coming down the stairs and you have to hide.
Yeah. Or for example, you're going through the serial killer's house and you hear someone else in the wall. Like there's someone trapped in the wall. That was in a book I read. It was pretty amazing how scary that was. It's like, what? There's someone else here and we can't see them. We know they're there.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
having unexpected things if you want to like go away from gore. I was looking at this thing on Facebook was so a doll room in itself could be creepy, but instead of a room full of dolls, someone suggested, what if it's just one doll in a room by itself?
That is pretty creepy too.
Yeah, that's not something, put because that's an expectation you have, and it's twisted upside down.
Yeah, especially if there's nothing else in the room, like it's just the doll sitting in a rocking chair, and the room is bare. Otherwise, like what the hell happened? What is going on here? Yeah, I think what we're getting at here is that you raise questions, and that's kind of how you build tension. You raise questions: is where is the killer? Why is this doll alone in this room? What where's the rest of the head? Yeah. But and the thing is, we both laugh, but it's funny because that's the alternative to being terrified in some sense when you talk about things that are really scary or weird or off-putting.
Yeah, it's again, it goes back to that entire thing of like how people show like respond to fear. Some people laugh, some people shriek, some people freeze up. Also, if we're kind of getting away from kind of scary weird, let's just go to weird. Like say like an alien ship. Well, maybe like it's circular. Maybe the hallways are circular.
Yeah. So there's no bottom. There's no bottom or top. You're just kind of walking, and yeah. I mean, you're stuck to one side presumably, but there you go.
Yeah, or this great example I found was just like it's a Call of Cthulhu. Someone posted this on I think Reddit, and it was like there's a flying triangle with a dimensional shambler on all four sides. Wait, a triangle only has three sides. Exactly. Roll sanity.
Oh gosh, that's great.
Yeah, because we can't really comprehend that. Things that you have trouble comprehending.
Right. Like
it's a little different.
Go on.
Okay.
Okay, sure. So to use another example from a Lovecraft story, I think it was I forget the name of it, but it wasn't Innsmouth. It wasn't one of those ones. It was the one with the Whateleys, and there's two brothers born, but one of them is never seen ever, and then he just lives upstairs.
The Dunwich Horror. Dunwich Horror.
Yeah. Which is just he lives upstairs, and they just have to keep knocking out more walls for some reason. You see the family taking out more walls, but you never see why, and you realize this thing is getting really big up there. It's so big that you take out all the walls on the upper floor just so it could have room. And and you never see it. It's invisible, presumably, but you just see its trail when it leaves. And like, that's so cool. That's like the epitome of the don't show the monster thing. I mean, in fact, you can't show him. You can't see him,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when when they put some powder or something on him and he's shown, he's very, it's beyond comprehension.
Yes.
And you only hear like, that one looked a little more like his father. who was Yog
Yeah,
Shik,
Yog
Yog,
Sothoth.
or
Yeah.
yeah, or was it Azeroth?
It's
I
hard to
forget.
it's hard to say.
Yeah,
I don't remember the
some
story super well, but
some spooky flying tentacle monster.
yeah, something that it defies comprehension. Uh, and that's interesting because there really is a different kind of weird. There's the weird that is like Lovecraftian cosmic weird, which doesn't care about you, and then there's the
Hmm.
malevolent weird, like the serial killer who's only got bad intentions,
Hmm.
and and then there's also the weird that's just uncanny valley. It just that shouldn't be. For example, and this is kind of in between because it's say a human. I mean, like I've been imagining this. Say a human generation ship. So most people, or not a generation ship, a human spaceship. But
Hmm.
most people are in cold stasis or whatever. And you're
Yeah.
wandering along, and say there's the one person who's awake or whatever. They're walking through, and you see, or whatever, your party's awake. You're walking through this corridor of sleeping capsules, and you
Hmm.
see there's one of them doesn't have a person in it. There's something else in there. It's like, what? Like there's some other form in this capsule. It's like, where did that come from? And it's raising those questions again.
Yeah. Um, Another kind of that uncanny weird might be just kind of looking at the thing.
Mm.
You don't know exactly who it is, and like that's just the weirdest thing. Your blood responds like blood responding to like fire.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing. That's just so weird.
Yeah. And
It's so
actually,
weird.
yeah. And in an RPG, to get back to RPG specifically, though, I
Uh-huh.
think it's important because RPGs are games, right? I mean, on some level, at
Hmm.
least, every RPG is a game. But so it's important that there be some kind of understanding of what you can do in the game. This is the challenge of doing a cosmic horror in a game like this sometimes, or doing any kind of scary thing. If the PCs are too comfortable, if the players are too comfortable with how much danger they can handle,
Hmm.
that's gonna make it easier for them to just shrug it off. That was weird, but I'm okay. Um, and that's kind of the difference I think between weird and horror. Is in weird, the PCs kind of know that I can handle most of the things that are coming at me at least,
Hmm.
and in horror, you can't.
Yeah.
And they're both excellent. I think they're really cool. And also, there's room in stories and RPGs to twist them both, right?
Oh,
Sometimes you
totally.
kill the thing. Sometimes you killed the thing. I mean, say in the movie,
Hmm.
killed some of them, but then the problem is now you don't know who is now. Yeah, who's one of them now, and so you get and also you can kill it, and that's like in Call of Cthulhu, you get your sanity back if you kill the monster in certain rules. You get some
Hmm.
sanity back because you realize that thing wasn't invincible. Um, I guess what I'm getting at here is having rules the monsters are governed by is really cool. And in fact, there was this really
Hmm.
good there's a D20 Modern basically version of D20 Modern called Grim Tales. And in the
Okay.
back of this, they had vulnerabilities. They had a monster design system in the back of the book, but they also had rules for horror, and they also had a monster weakness section. So it's how weak
Ooh.
this monster. It's a random table where you roll D100, and this is the weakness the monster has, or the source of its weakness. And it could be all
Interesting.
sorts of things. And it was really cool. I still really like that. I don't know. I probably wouldn't run D20 Modern again, especially not if I wanted to run a horror game. But there you go. It's kind of interesting how that works. And I guess using rules to reinforce the horror is more than just making the opponent no sell, not take any damage from hits or whatever, or be a terrifying thing to look at or creepy to look at, whatever. But I think there's something to it where where the players understand less about their opponent. And then
Hmm.
if you have like this weakness thing, it's very Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I figured out what it was, what it could do, and now we're going to kill it with salt or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I
there's
feel like just
the different kind of game is will
approaching.
support different approaches. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Approaching it in those sorts of ways is just it really does depend. Like I think when it comes to being weird or installing weirdness into your game, um, you have to kind of realize like how far you're gonna get as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, for example, a horror game, where where you're a lot weaker than the monster, as opposed to just something that you can take. You can take
Mm-hmm.
on, but yeah. And so, like, the weirdness might have to be more, um, like in the way it operates, maybe,
Yeah, making it
or like,
alien, like yeah, in that way.
yeah, like the Hydra. I mean, that's a pretty
Mm-hmm.
good example. It's like, okay, here's a giant monster. I'm going to cut its head off. Oh shit! I just made it worse.
Yeah, or the predator. This creature. The predator is actually kind of both, but it really is like, okay, you could fight this thing, but it's invisible, and
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you're always afraid of what you can't see, and the Predator really is a horror movie. The original Predator movie is really a horror movie. It's a slasher horror movie, but instead of being helpless teenagers, the crew are a bunch of commandos, the heroes, and
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. But that's obviously makes a very different movie than say Alien, where everyone's a space trucker, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have to fight, and then they have to deal with this monster that's a lot less powerful than the Predator. If you think about it, it doesn't shoot plasma beams. It's not invisible, but it's just terrifying because you don't know where it is, and it could be anywhere in this huge labyrinth ship.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and obviously the H.R. Geiger design doesn't hurt. As far as and I think there's a certain amount of unnaturalness, and and the sense of the unknown that makes horror work and makes weirdness work. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, is there anything else you want to add about this though?
I would say just play with those expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Just try to. We played a game in high school called Just Imagine, where we try to gross each other out. Um, so play that with like how weirder can you get? Just imagine a head in the freezer. Just imagine half a head in the freezer. Just imagine two halves of different heads in the freezer. Just imagine two
You
halves of different heads in a
sorry,
freezer. Exactly. Yeah.
you got me. Yeah, I'm grossed out. Yeah, no, that makes so much sense though. Yeah, imagine like a twist on the what's scary. Severed head, half a severed
Mhm.
head, two halves of two different heads. It's yeah.
So together.
So yeah, I almost said that too. I was almost there. Anyway, yeah.
Well, this
uh,
has been of Mooks and Monsters. You can like us on Facebook, where this podcast is on mentalcellarpublication.com. Please email us at podcast@mentalcellarpublications.com. We're both on Twitter. I'm at StageChat. Tim's at TNeedAWriter. Can be found where the podcast can be found. We are hosted by Lipson.
yeah, that's about it. So thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.